Welcome back to Hear Us Next Door. Thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate you. Today we are back in East Brandywine in Pennsylvania, and we're going to be taking a look at their new firehouse. We did this one before, but they did a complete renovation. It took them a couple years to do it, but it's absolutely beautiful. So let's go take a look. So as I come into the building, we're going to be meeting up with their president, John Edwards. He's a good friend of mine. We've known each other for a bunch of years. So this building from the outside, first of all, is absolutely beautiful. You know, the viewers may know that I work in this area. I've worked with you guys for a number of times. We did a station cribs here before, but this is completely different. Can you explain to us what you did?
So first of all, welcome. It's awesome to have Hear Us Next Door back with us, particularly now. You know, truth be told, we have undergone a transformative renovation, and it's been amazing. It's been an amazing experience, certainly for our membership, but also for the community at large. So as you know, our original building was built in 1962. It had some additions in 1967 as well as 1992, but those additions were really just to address a particular problem and need at that time. So a couple years ago, we started the process of doing a full-scale comprehensive review, and for us, renovation made sense.
Dude, that's awesome. Do you mind, you know, walking and talking and show me what you got?
Let's do it.
So originally, this was actually a bay, I thought.
This space that you're in right now, we were originally at 16,000 square feet. We've increased to 20,000 square feet. So originally this was outside.
Okay.
So one of the things that we recognized was we needed office space. We provide, you know, high quality emergency services, but we knew our building wasn't necessarily reflective of those high quality services. And certainly for the work that our leadership was doing, we needed a space for them.
Okay.
So part of this was to build a space where our operational officers and our administrative officers, they had an opportunity to work here at the station. So come on in.
Okay.
So we have our operational and administrative offices that open up to the first of a few different conference rooms, because that's the other need that we recognized was we needed conferencing space, not only for our membership to gather, more importantly for training, and additionally when we move upstairs later on in the tour, for community space.
Right.
These are our administrative offices, which open up into this space, which you'll see 3 monitors, which we'll also utilize as an emergency operations center when needed.
Yeah, that's a good thing to have. Love the table too. You know, we've seen a bunch of tables throughout the firehouses. You guys actually had a good table out in the engine bay before.
So throughout the building, we're very fortunate. One of our members is a furniture maker, GP Pilati Furniture Makers, and he has actually donated our conferencing tables, and you'll see them throughout the building.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. Love the fire tables. I see we got a little bit of weather going on, and this is just basically, do you get dispatches on these too?
So we have our I am responding. That's always up.
Okay.
The other thing that we did, you're going to see 26 monitors throughout the building.
Okay.
And it's important for us in terms of keeping our membership informed and engaged. Throughout, you'll see that we have announcements, we have new membership information, we have information surrounding our training and our drill nights that are up continually. So
that's nice. That's awesome to see.
Important for us to keep our membership informed.
Right. So the entrance that I came in, is this normally where the public would come through?
The public generally doesn't come in. What we have found, and we're still recognizing that this layout is relatively new to us.
Okay.
We're still learning how the building's going to operate, but this has been predominantly for our membership.
Okay. And then we walk right into, it looks like your kitchen.
So this is our kitchen. I think you'll remember, Mike, probably from our last visit, that this kitchen was fully commercial.
Yeah.
What we did was, recognizing that commercial kitchen supported a banquet hall, we eliminated the commercial kitchen and went heavy residential.
Okay.
Is what we did here.
Beautiful kitchen. It's got plenty of space. You still got some commercial appliances.
We do.
So for all the crews that you have here or work night, you're able to cook. But this does not look anything like the original kitchen.
It does not. So a couple things that we kept in mind was how the kitchen was going to function when we had a large number of our volunteer base here. So that's why we made spaces so that when we needed a buffet line, we had that for our crews. But the other thing we did, and I wanted to make sure, it was important for us. Our culture is the most important aspect for us.
Right.
And when we transitioned from the previous building in this renovation, we wanted to make sure we incorporated things that were important in our culture. So as you know from your last visit, we had what we called a coffee room. So what we did was we took that concept of a coffee room and we turned it into a coffee bar, because we know a lot of our memberships are showing up very early in the morning, and we wanted to make sure that this was incorporated into the design.
This is awesome. I noticed you got plenty of space, plenty of cabinets. I assume they're all, stocked with.
They're stocked. We generally have people, and again, some unique things that you may see is one of the things that we did was we created a work from station office for those who telecommute. So we actually have volunteers here around the clock.
Okay, that's awesome to see. And you got basically a supply area over here, right?
We have a pantry here. This is where we have more freezer space, more refrigerator space.
Okay.
All our dry goods.
Nice. I like the fresh brick look too. Was this the outside of the building originally? I'm trying to get my bearings here. So this had a doorway.
The kitchen was part of the original design.
Okay.
That doorway was the doorway which would have led to the outside.
Okay. And you had a pass through before.
We had a pass through before. Part of the renovation, and I'll tell you, Mike, for us, the architect is the true hero in all of this.
Okay.
The architect, KSM Architects, did a remarkable job. When we walked them through, their vision was unbelievable in what they were able to do with not only really most importantly, the functionality of the space.
Right.
But I think as we go through today, you'll see the aesthetics of the space, are equally as nice.
Yeah, one of the things that we've learned over time, we've done a couple of different firehouses, obviously, as you know, for the last 3 years, but we're also working with Fiero. They do a PPE conference that we just finished up, and they do an architectural conference. They talk about the flow, the function, and trying to meet all those NFPA regulations. And it's interesting to see how different architects tackle that same problem.
So I will tell you, and we can talk more about this on the tour, but for us, the renovation made sense, but getting that flow that you described and then blending it with making sure the building operated as a building in 2023 as compared to 1962 was important for us.
Yeah.
So we can talk more about that as we walk around.
We walk right into it. This used to be basically the banquet hall, right?
This was the banquet hall. Back in, obviously, 1967, when they added this space, it was programmed as a fire company in 1967, where often there was ladies' auxiliaries, and they had the community in for dinners.
Yeah.
You're going to see that we're engaging the community in a little different way when we move upstairs.
Okay.
So then we took this banquet hall space and we then made it our crew quarters.
Okay.
And we wanted to make sure that our crews had a space which they could come and they can gather, they can eat, they could come, relax. And then this is also where we incorporated our work from home station.
Okay.
So this has been really, honestly, instrumental for us.
Right.
So we created a space where for those telecommuters, they could come and work during the day. They have high-speed internet access. They have sit-stand desks. We have large screens for them, and it allows us, from our perspective, to provide the community a better service.
Okay.
So for instance, this week, we had a first due house fire. We were out the door within under a minute with a fully...
Makes a big difference when that happens. I like the industrial kind of look too. It almost looks like these are the old garage doors that,
I'm glad you brought it up. When we worked with the architect, we gave him 3 words. We wanted industrial, warm, and timeless. So when you look throughout the building, that was the vision that we provided the architect to sort of not only the outside of the building, but the inside of the building as well.
Well, it's knocking it out of the park already, and I'm only in, what, 2 rooms?
Yeah, right.
So I love the chairs. We've been to a couple different stations that actually get the chairs custom made. They put their embroidered logos on the chairs and stuff like that.
So as part of the project, and we knew that we were renovating the space, and we knew we had to invest some money in soft costs, right? So furniture and the different things that were going to be comfortable for the volunteers.
Right. So about how many volunteers do you have?
So we have 70 volunteers who are currently active.
Okay.
50 of whom would routinely respond to calls.
Wow.
So we're incredibly fortunate in that we have a very robust volunteer base. We're
Okay.
very proud of that. I will tell you that in large part, it is all driven by our culture.
Yeah. Well, and the culture, that's where the behind the scenes stuff that you don't necessarily can capture on camera. It's the administration staff, it's the chiefs, it's the line officers that create that culture that, you know, for me as a volunteer, want to be part of. And that's a good call out to you guys for doing that.
So it's something we invest in daily, right? And our membership, we start at 14 years old, so it's our 14 years old through to our 84-year-olds. And everybody plays an instrumental role in it.
Okay.
And we can talk more about that as we walk and talk for
So
sure.
this went into basically the bunk where you put your gear racks, right?
So we're in a space where we're going to transition into a space where the gear had been previously, but
Yeah.
because of our large membership base, we had to add additional gear lockers, and this is where we did so.
Yeah, it's a good way to do that. It transitions nice from your crew room right into the engine bay. But I remember coming here the first time and sitting in this, and this was a fairly new renovation already.
So one of the things that we did as part of the renovation, there were some things that we had done previously in the old building that we didn't want to lose our return on investment.
Okay.
And that's one of the ways that we had also worked collaboratively with the township, was that we knew we had put some money in the building already, albeit not a ton. We still didn't want to lose out on that.
Yeah.
So we incorporated previous things that we did into the design. You know, truth be told, I'll tell you that we did a social media post, and this is one of the areas that garnered the most amount of dialogue.
Okay.
We'll say dialogue.
Yeah.
And reason being is we know that this isn't something that you typically see in a new station design.
Right.
When we worked with the architect,
Because you're talking about that NFPA regulations, a hot, warm, and cold zone. Right. This is kind of that mix of that warm and cold and warm and hot zone.
100% correct, and we knew that. That was a conscious decision that we made as we worked with our architect. And for us, we knew that there were certain NFPA standards that we wanted to incorporate into our design, and that we knew there were others that we thought that we'd take a balanced approach and blend it in with our culture. Certainly we understand some of the risks as it pertains to toxins, but we also recognize that having this table in the engine room, having our guys gather, having the relationships that are built around this table.
Another beautiful table, by the way.
Another beautiful table. Having those relationships that are built around this table, having that really built into our culture and grow our membership, that we think that the benefit far outweighs the risk. That's open up to personal opinion.
Some people will say, well, what's your call volume? How many calls are you getting and all that exhaust is coming in? Do you have plume events? Do you have this kind of things? You have to balance that between, you know, that culture. I really enjoyed hanging out in the engine bay. You know, whether I had a crew room or not, I hang out in the engine bay because I put the doors open during the summertime, hang out on the skirt, you know, look at the trucks, watch the trucks. This is where I spent a lot of my time.
So we want our guys to be in the engine room. We have our engine room, which is vented. This area is vented. We have a requirement where after working fires that our crews have to wash their gear. So for us, the degree of risk is incredibly low. The benefits far outweigh.
Yeah. This is where all life's problems get solved too, by the way.
They're here, I mean, and I will tell you that we weren't sure how the space would necessarily function in terms of when we create a beautiful space for our crews back there. We weren't sure, but this is where they spend their time.
Yeah. So we're going to kind of skip the engine bay for now, but you got a couple other unique things over here.
So Mike, one of the things that we're We wanted to incorporate, recognizing that firefighter fitness is so important. You have a lot of people doing work in that space. Jim Moss, Dan Kerrigan, they're doing work in this space. We wanted to provide a really nice fitness center for our team to work out in. So this was important to us. From your previous visit, this had been our coffee room.
Yeah. I thought it was an office or coffee room kind of look.
It was a combination coffee room and office.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that we wanted to do was make sure that our gym was off the engine room. We put a large window in, so when the guys are working out, they can see out into the engine room, and it really reinforces why it is that you are working in.
The other thing that we talked about in other episodes is having windows into the gym, because if you're in here working out and for God forbid something happens, you go down, maybe the weight was too much, you have people that can see you. You know, all too often we get, closed in, and we've had some unfortunate incidents over the years of people, passing away because no one saw them, kind of thing. So putting a window in there.
We wanted to bring a lot of natural light into the space. We wanted it to be open. We wanted it to be safe. We wanted to make sure we had great equipment. A couple things unique that we do is we have our Peloton, which we offer a corporate membership for all of our members. And then the other part of this was in terms of our design, we open our gym up for our members' spouses, significants, families. So
Nice.
We wanted to put it in an area where you could come in a door where you don't have to walk through the station.
Right.
You come in, work out, finish your workout, and you can go through the door.
Very nice. Now, originally, you had some of this equipment that was in a back room, kind of up a back staircase, if I remember right.
We did have some equipment, and it was in a non-ventilated area. Our gym floor was horse mats at the time.
Right.
So as you can see, this is a significant upgrade from what you saw previously.
What's nice about that is even back then, you guys were thinking ahead. You thought, you know what? Physical fitness is very important for the fire guys and girls. So you put it in there because that's what you had. But you're like, you know what? We're going to continue that. We're going to move that forward and step it up a notch.
So Mike, I'm going to say this, and I would imagine that a number of your viewers were probably in the same scenario that we were. We would always talk about investment of money and how we would invest that money, but we always had a vision that we were going to do a renovation, a large-scale renovation, or a build from the ground up. So we never wanted to really waste that money.
Yeah.
However, we never got to the point where we were doing this full-scale renovation. And it really created an interesting dynamic of which we wanted to support our personnel, but we also didn't want to lose out on money if we were doing a renovation.
Right.
So, when we talked about the initiative of this project, it's been a phenomenal experience for us.
So coming out of the gym, one of the questions that I had, because I know this territory, you have police department that's pretty much in your corner, back corner here. Are they allowed to also use the gym?
So, great question, Mike. We have an unbelievable relationship with our law enforcement partners, and it was actually one of the law enforcement partners, one of the patrolmen who helped us with the purchase of the equipment. So we work collaboratively with them. They have access to our gym. Their keypad numbers are their badge numbers. So it's not unusual you'll find one of the officers from the neighboring municipalities working
That's
out in the
nice
gym.
to have the collaboration between different services. All too often, as a firehouse or police department or EMS, we separate ourselves. And, working together on the streets we do, now we're kind of bringing the houses together too.
It helps foster the relationship. You're not only meeting them when we're in crisis, but you're meeting them here when we have the opportunity to talk, have a dialogue, build relationships.
Yeah. So you got a little bit of a hose room here too.
Yeah, so one of the things that we wanted to make sure was that we had hose storage. So that was all part of the design and development in the building is that we wanted to make sure that everything that we had, whether it be fire service equipment, whether it be cleaning equipment, it had a space in the building.
Right.
So we knew that we could decrease any sort of clutter if we had a space for everything.
That's the one unique thing, and that's very difficult to do when you think about renovations versus tear down and do. You have to figure out where in the renovation you can put your things.
So, that's where the architect did such a phenomenal job for us. We literally, down to our floor cleaner, reviewed every piece of equipment that we had, reviewed its sizes, and we knew that by the end of the design that we wanted to have a home for everything that we owned.
Okay. Now, obviously, we just walked past all your gear. You mentioned earlier that you have a decon or a washroom. They wash their gear after every fire. Is that where we're heading next?
That's where we're heading next. Why don't we come on in? So this was important when part of the design, when we got back, we thought about, well, how do we operate after a call? And we recognized that we now have 6 full depth bays, and everything after a call funnels back to the middle. And that was sort of the design in our heads, was whether it be filling your air packs or whether that be coming in and washing your mask or cleaning the equipment, that we wanted a space for that.
Right.
So we have what we call our decon room, which has our 3-bay stainless steel sink. We have an industrial shower. We have, our stainless steel table. These 2 rooms, they still have some cabinetry and some countertops that need to go in it.
Okay.
So they're not 100% complete. However, we're getting there. So this is part of our punch list.
Yeah.
So when we come in here, obviously we had talked a little bit about, it's for us important that when we get back from a working fire, our expectation is our firefighters clean their gear. So we have our gear washer or dryer. I know for some of your viewers, and it was important for us, is not only the initial design, but how do you care for the equipment
Yeah, all too
after
often
it's
I've
installed?
seen these extractors get put into little closets, and they fit, but when it breaks down, because it's going to break down, you got to be able to fit it in there, and having the architect understand that these kind of breakdowns are going to happen and doesn't just shove it into a closet is important. This room is absolutely huge. This is perfect. Even if you put your cabinets up on the wall here, you still got plenty of room to get your extractor in, get your dryer, and then I assume these are for towels and stuff like that.
These are before your sort of residential, your towels, that type of thing.
Yeah, yeah. The other thing that I really like is that 3-bay sink. The reason for that is all too often, I come back to a firehouse that doesn't have that quite yet. They're trying to look at it, and I got to use the bucket system.
Yeah.
You got your wash, your rinse, your sanitize. You have that all right there in a nice lit space.
So we sanitize the 3-bay sink when we get back. We used to use the 3-bucket method ourselves, and inevitably the buckets would get used for something else.
Usually wash the truck.
Right, so it would be used to wash the truck or the floor, and then you'd be putting your mask in. So it wasn't ideal.
Yeah.
So this 3-bay sink, we sanitize it, we bring it back, we can do the rinse, the wash, the rinse.
It makes it
in
so
the
much
sink.
nicer, so much easier. I appreciate that you guys have that forethought of putting that kind of stuff in.
The other thing, Mike, in these rooms was, it was important for us because we know they're wet rooms, is that we have floor drainage in all of these rooms.
Yeah, yeah. That's another thing that you don't think about. You're like, oh, I got a sink, I got a drain there, but you're bringing in maybe wet gear. Yeah. Today was a wet, rainy day. Correct. I'm going to bring in wet gear. I don't want that, contaminating carpet or anything else, and you need a place to go. That's awesome. That's awesome. So out here, we're heading back. This is your air fill station, right?
This is our compressor in order to fill the bottles. There are lots of discussions as to where we were going to put this. Certainly, we want it to be accessible. We know there's a noise component associated with this. There was some thought to put it in our 4-bay garage, which we'll see later. Ultimately, we settled in this area. And the reason we settled in this area is when we come back from a call, we don't want the personnel who's going to be charged with the responsibility of filling the bottles to be away from our entire crew.
Right.
We want them to feel that
Part of
they're
the team.
still part of the team, that they're not off in a garage area where people are discussing how the call went, and they're off on their own.
So they
not
can
being
be
able to
part of that
participate.
hot wash.
They can be part of it.
As we go on. So that's pretty cool to put that there too. I love the racks, for your gear, your bottles, everything else. So as we go here, you got another engineer's room. This is, assume, where all the tools are.
This is where our engineer's closet is.
All right, I'm going to pause for just a second. You have security system throughout that. You just used a cell phone, not a badge, to do that. That's pretty slick. So.
We did.
Okay.
So this is our engineer's room.
Lights come on right away. Okay.
It's interesting. You say lights go on right away. So everything in the building is on a photocell.
Okay.
One of the things that we recognized was we wanted to be energy efficient. It wasn't unusual in the old building. We would often leave lights on So now when you walk into the space, the light will come off. When we leave, 15 minutes later, the light will go off.
Right.
And all of our lighting's LED.
And you got plenty of storage. You got some extra storage up
We
there.
added storage at the
tools.
top. We have our tool room here. They can work on the equipment here.
Okay.
And this was important to us in terms of the design development, where everything funnels to the middle.
Yeah. This is one of my favorite things. One of my things that I do for hobby is auto mechanics.
Okay.
I do some welding and stuff like that. So engineer's room, I love playing in there. I'd spend all day in there. Where's this door go back to?
So this would be to our 4-bay garage.
Okay, so we'll hit that in a little bit then.
Okay. And then as you know, we do provide a quick response service here.
Right. We did a video of their QRS unit that has a space cap on the back. So you guys have a complete supply room.
So this is our EMS supply closet.
Okay.
That supports our emergency medical service.
Nice and easy to see what kind of stock you need, stuff like that.
We know the unit would be positioned right here. We have their supplies right behind the unit, so it makes it very efficient.
And you guys function as BLS first responder, is that correct?
Correct.
You don't have any advanced life support on staff?
We're not advanced life support, so we have 22 emergency medical technicians
Okay.
who are part of the team. And in our area, we provide a quick response. And then once the BLS or ALS comes, from a transport perspective, they transport the patient.
That's nice to have. We appreciate that. I know I've seen your guys many a time. So we're going to make our way towards the front of the building. But first, we're running into a radio room, it looks like.
Yeah, so we have a small radio room where we have all our telecommunications equipment in the radio room. We also have, again, we still have some punch list items to take care of yet. But we also have, at the top of the tower, you'll see frosted glass. It's lined with LED lights.
Nice.
So we have the ability to control the LED lights. So the LED lights will turn red when there's a fire, blue when there's an EMS call. One of the sports teams win. We're able to illuminate it the color of the sports team.
Yeah, just so close. We almost won it.
Right. It's just for us, Mike. It's just again, it's a way to beautify, the hub of the community.
Right.
It's also a way to engage the community in a different way.
Yeah. So you guys that are watching now may not understand. Our Eagles team made it to the Super Bowl, but we lost it. So we're so close.
Just this close.
So next we're going to go up to your conference center upstairs.
So when we were in the back, we talked a little bit about the fact that our original building was programmed like a fire company that operated in 1962. It was important for us to engage the community in a different way.
Okay.
So recognizing that we live in a different era, recognizing that we now have a number of people who telecommute, we wanted to create a space, there's nothing like it in our area, where the community could come and have almost like a WeWorks scenario, where we have a couple small conference rooms, outfitted very nicely, where we have people, for instance, financial advisors do presentations, we have real estate agents bring clientele in to close a deal.
Okay.
All the way through to our HOAs using our bigger meeting space in order to have their meetings. So it's our Witmer Conference Center.
So if I remember right, upstairs, originally, we went up a very kind of narrow staircase, made a turn, came back up, and it was pretty much just a room with your chairs in it, almost a crew room. I had a small, see if I remember right, small little kitchenette, and a small little bedroom that had a couple bunks. Is that correct?
So when we were designing the space, that was a decision that we made, was to move our firefighter quarters from upstairs, and we put everything on the first floor.
Okay.
And for us, it then allowed us this opportunity to develop this conference center space, which is really separate from the fire company. So you're coming to a conference center, which just happens to be located on the second floor of our fire station.
All right, well, let's go take a look. But before we do that, do us a favor, hit subscribe, hit notifications so we can keep bringing you more, smash those like buttons, and make some comments. We want to know what you guys think of the firehouse from what was before and what is now. And also, a word from our sponsors. So this is the foyer for the conference room. They would come through the side door here,
This becomes the main entrance for the community. So if
Okay.
the community's coming into the space, this would be the main entry that they're coming into. They're coming into this tower, which we still have some things which we need to finish. Some bench seating will go in here. Our donors who have financially contributed to the space are
Okay.
going to be recognized on the wall here. And
This goes way up. It's almost like the original hose tower that you would hang hose from.
sort of the concept was to design it in a way where it resembled a hose tower from some of the original fire stations.
That's cool to keep that incorporated. All too often, when we do renovations, we wipe out the old and just put in new.
So interesting, Mike, you said in the previous building we had a narrow staircase. Part of a renovation is there's trade-offs. And we still have that narrow staircase. However, what we were also able to do was incorporate an elevator,
Yeah, you
which
didn't have this
we didn't
before.
have an elevator before.
Okay.
So we wanted to make sure it was important for us that all of our community had the ability to access the conference center.
Okay.
So having an elevator here was essential.
That's awesome. But we'll take the stairs.
Let's do it.
All right. So we just came up the open staircase.
We did.
Love the concept of the open staircase. And that brings you also to the elevator. And what do you got up here?
So, you're in the tower at this point, and as I shared with you, we're not quite done yet. The tower will get a vinyl print the entire way up of this wall. So when you look at it, it'll be grayed out images, so at first you'll think it's just texture. When you look more closely, then you're gonna see it's actually photographs.
Nice. Okay. When's that supposed to come in, give or take?
That'll come in hopefully in the next 6 months.
Okay. That's a big project. Was it something that each of your members kind of submitted a photo for to make, or how did that come about?
Well, it came about when we were in the conference center space, you're going to notice that we were very intentional, that we didn't want to bring really the fire service into this space.
Okay.
So while we're able to bring the fire service into this space with that vinyl covering, and when you look at some of the graphics, you're going to see elements of the fire service, but unless you're intimately involved, you won't notice them.
Okay. So no bunker gear comes up here, none of the dirty boots or anything like that. This is designed specifically for that.
No personal protective equipment comes here. This is designed for the community to come in, and they're renting this space out.
Okay.
Okay, and this is an opportunity for us to drive revenue with very little resource investment.
Okay. So speaking of that, we're talking about revenue and stuff. About how much does a renovation run, give or take?
So that's a great question. And that was really instrumental in terms of our decision making because we considered both options. We considered a building from the ground up versus renovation. So when we looked at the space and we had a contractor come in who was F.W. Howder, and I have to give them a shout out because they were phenomenal. They looked at the building and they said the bones of this building are good. It's a matter of architecturally, could we get the flow that we had hoped for? Yeah. And as I said before, the architect hit it out of the park. And the reality is at that point, we knew a renovation for us made sense because almost 100% of our money was going into construction, not land development, not in permitting, not environmental costs.
Right.
So the building that you're seeing is we originally signed for $3.1 million.
Okay.
That
That's not
escalated.
too bad.
It's not bad at all. When you look at commercial construction, we eventually settled in at $3.8 million.
Okay.
When you break that down per square foot, you're talking about $190 per
But
square
that
foot.
was also during the COVID era where you had supply chain issues, you had a couple other different things going on too.
So for those of you who don't know, I mean, the fact is we did this building during COVID.
Okay.
That then pushed us into supply chain issues, and in turn, the supply chain issues pushed us into an inflationary economy, which drove up costs. So, for instance, when we would meet, we would get an update that suddenly our parking lot costs an additional $40,000 more.
Right.
Because of oil and petroleum costs. So we ended the project at $3.8 million, but that's also, we made some conscious decisions in terms of we added a sprinkler system throughout the building because we thought that was important. Yeah. If we're advocating for sprinklers,
You got to have them.
we should have them.
Okay. The one question I have is if someone in the area wants to get a hold of you and become part of this, fantastic transition that you're doing, how do they do that? Do you have a website?
So we have a website. It's ebsc49.org. You can go to the website. There's a membership information on the website. And we're also on social media. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. So you can go there as well.
Okay. Now, you said earlier you started as young as 14, but what if I maybe just retired, and now I want to find something to do as hobby? Can they come also?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is we have obviously those folks who focus on operations, and then we have those folks who are social members as well.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good way. So if you guys are watching the video and you want to become part of this, transformation of this fire station and become part of a good team, get a hold of John or any of the crew here, and they'll walk you through the steps. So the one thing that I missed, the bunker rooms were here. Correct. And I haven't come across it yet. Where are those?
So, as I said before, in terms of the design, the bunk rooms used to be located essentially where that storage closet is.
Right.
And one of the things when we met with the architecture, and we really talked about efficiency and speed of response, is it just made sense for us to take our entire operation and move it on the first floor. We also then wanted to make sure that if you're coming, because we have people here who work non-traditional schedules, so they may be here sleeping during the day, we wanted to put the bunk rooms in an area where there could be quiet.
Okay.
So we moved them to the back of the building.
Right, so us just walking around and kind of disturbing your crew today, we actually didn't disturb anybody that may have been sleeping.
Correct.
That's a lot of forethought. Those are the kind of things that many of the people that are looking to renovate have to really take the time, talk about it, and know what they want to do, not just for the immediate results, but for what's going to happen in the future. All right, so how about we go take a look at those? So just to give you guys an idea of where we're at, we're back in the crew room. We came from upstairs. To my left is going to be the engine bay. We're going to get to see those just in a little bit, but I wanted to show you the bunk rooms, and those are back here, correct?
Correct.
All right.
So Mike, we moved the bunk rooms from the second floor down to the first floor, and we put them towards the back of the building.
Okay.
And again, in terms of a renovation, I talked about the fact that we were in the banquet hall.
Right.
This had been the stage for the banquet hall.
Right, okay.
So they incorporated the stage into the design. So what we have is we have a total of 6 bunk rooms.
Wow.
So within each bunk room, they have their own sound system. They have their own alerting system.
Okay.
And you'll see that three of the bunks have single beds, and 3 of the bunks have bunk beds.
Bunk beds, okay.
Which has been another hot topic on social media.
Yeah. Some people are like, oh, you're going to break ankles. We're adults. We know how to get off of bunk beds.
So what we did was we have 2 bathrooms.
Okay.
All right, these are just toilet rooms here. Because, again, just sort of a different thought process for us was we wanted to break out the toilet room and the shower.
Okay. So there is a shower up here.
We have 2 showers.
Okay.
So we have 2 toilet rooms.
Yeah.
And then we have 2 showers.
Okay. Nice. So why is that? Why would you go and separate the 2? All too often we see, a men's and a ladies, men's and a ladies, bathroom and shower room together. What was the thought process behind separating them?
Honestly, if I'm being completely honest, for everyone that we saw where they were combined, they just seemed to be a mess.
Okay. That makes sense. You want to keep things clean, and I may spend 15 minutes in a bathroom and you got to take a shower. So
for us, we have 2 ways out of the bunk room, again, for that speed and efficiency.
Yeah.
And when I talk about, we wanted to make sure everything has a place. So if we could open this door, even down to all of our, cleaning systems and supplies.
Right.
We wanted to make sure. So we have, our utility room here. We have our utility room on the second floor, and they're both equipped with all of our cleaning supplies. So again, everything that we have has a spot so you don't see it out, cluttering up, whether it be our crew quarters or whether it be our engine room.
Right. It makes a big difference having that just kind of tucked away rather than just in a corner or underneath the sink in the kitchen, kind of thing. So now we want to go see your engine bays. You have 2 different engine bays. You have what we consider an auxiliary engine bay and the regular one.
Right. So part of the design and was, as you said, thinking towards the future. And so when we get into the main engine bay, we'll talk about that we have 6 full depth bays in the front of the building. But this is new space for us here. And this is, we actually had a need because we had equipment sitting outside. But we also recognize that in the future, we may need to house, for instance, an ambulance in this space.
Okay.
So that was the idea of thinking toward the future and creating this space.
Right. If I remember right, we actually did an episode of Station Rigs on your UTV, and that was really tucked in a smaller engine bay in the back of the building.
That was actually in a storage closet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things, Mike, that your viewers may want to see is the fact that we did something we thought was unique was when we talked about storage space, we put this cage system in so we weren't permanently attached to storage space.
Okay.
So we have this, whereas in the event that we need the 4th bay in the future, we can just unbolt this and that goes away.
But that's a
and
good
we have
way
a full
to
depth
store,
bay.
this is basically your masters at arms with all your gear and backup stuff. And
This is our additional gear. This is our gloves and our hoods and our lights and the things that you would be giving out to people who, whether they have new equipment or their equipment has been worn out.
Right. I love this bay. I mean, this did not exist the last time we were here. This was an outside by the
Correct.
time. You had a little almost covered area that was storing stuff. Is that now gone?
Yeah, so that was the pavilion. It was originally used for our chicken barbecues as part of fundraising, which we no longer do. But we then used to store equipment under there. So this now takes the place of the pavilion.
Okay.
So what it also allows us to do is after a call, so for instance, if we're coming back and we're cleaning our salvage tarps or we have hose that are drying, that we can use this facility as well.
Yeah, it's a good way to do that. And you bring a lot of your equipment. I think these were underneath the pavilion before.
Correct.
Now it's going to put more life into those because it's not being warm by the weather.
So Mike, this brings us then into our main engine bay, which we now have 6 full depth bays.
Right.
So where we're walking now is, this was formerly the outside of the building.
Okay.
So as you can see, there's been a number of changes to the engine bay.
It's huge. Now I'm going to try to go back, and we'll probably show you on film too. You had walls here. You had basically the utility truck was in its own little bay in the middle kind of thing, right?
We not only had walls, but we had a low ceiling.
Okay.
So, and we had no floor grades.
Right. Okay.
So we had a small engine room, which wasn't really functional. And as you see in a lot of fire companies that haven't been renovated, the gear then was on the perimeter.
Right.
Very close to the apparatus, creating for us what we believed was a real safety issue.
Right. So, and then now we come up here. I'm going to walk across the front here. Kind of describe to me what trucks we have.
So in terms of the apparatus as we walk, you're going to start with our smaller vehicles. And obviously, as most fire companies do, we have a utility vehicle. It handles really transporting some of our personnel to the scene if they're a little bit late getting to the station, or it helps us with cleanup or running errands. Pulls our ATV, you're right. Then we have our EMS vehicle.
Okay. And this is a nice one. We've done a station rigs on this one too. So if
Correct.
you guys haven't seen that before, definitely check out that rig. This has a space cap on the back, which is set up really nice.
Has a space cap on the back, which we've outfitted not only for EMS, we have traffic control and scene management equipment in the vehicle, and we also have some firefighting equipment in there as well.
Okay. The one thing I haven't come across then, do you guys have fire police here, like some of the other fire companies do?
No, we don't have fire police. We believe that emergency scene management is everyone's responsibility.
Okay.
So for us, that's the way that we handle those types of scenarios.
That works. Okay, that kind of brings us to our first one. What's this?
This is a rescue engine.
Okay. So this is the one that when we were walking around before, that you were in the process of transferring from just a regular engine to a rescue engine.
Correct. And then this is our oldest. This Pierce is the oldest in the fleet at 2004. And we have a new walk-in rescue on order but the lead times are like 24 months.
Yeah.
So that's why you don't see it here.
So maybe we'll come back when you get the new one and we'll do another rigs on it.
We'd love to have you back.
All right. So the other thing that's popping out to me, I recently did one in Lafayette, Lancaster area. They had orange trucks. You have yellow trucks. Why is that?
So we have yellow trucks, and to be honest with you, it was part of the history of the fire company. They had originally been red, and then, as you well know, there were some studies done that this yellow, we'll call it yellow, created higher visibility. Right. And so not unlike a lot of other fire companies, they painted the trucks yellow. We just have never transitioned back to the red fire truck.
It's definitely unique. You definitely see it. I'm noticing that you have the rescue. You also have a truck.
So this is a 2018 Pierce Enforcer.
Okay.
It's a 105-foot heavy-duty aerial. It's a dry ladder. We have over 300 feet of ground ladders.
Okay.
So that was important to us for our community. We have tons of development. So as you can imagine, we're getting lots of those townhomes where they're 6, 7, 8 connected.
Yeah.
We wanted to make sure that we not only had an aerial that would handle the setback and the height, but we wanted to make sure we could ground ladder 360 degrees of the building.
Yeah. And then you have 2 engines, right?
So this is our pumper tanker, Seagrave.
Oh, it's a tanker.
Yeah,
Okay.
Seagrave Marauder. There's 2,500 gallons of water. All of our trucks have 2,000 gallon per minute pumps on them.
Okay.
So this will have 2,500 gallons of water. It incorporates a porta tank. We also have on this a Siamese valve so that we have versatility when it comes to rural water supply.
Okay. So are you then also part of the tanker task force for the area if you need be?
We can be part of that if requested.
Okay. And then the final piece of apparatus here is?
And then we have our city style attack engine,
Okay.
which is another 2018 Pierce Enforcer. This has 8 different pre-connects on it, and it's a firefighting beast. So.
Well, John, I appreciate you, brother. This is an absolutely beautiful house. You guys did a phenomenal job at the renovation of, in a station. So if viewers are out there and are considering tear down versus renovate and stuff like that, you obviously can see that you can do it. You can do a renovation and not necessarily a tear down.
I'll be honest with you, Mike. First of all, thank you for coming and Heroes Next Door. From our perspective, we're happy to assist any fire company who would like information regarding sort of the process that we went through, making the decisions regarding renovation or building from the ground up, and some of the different challenges that you can anticipate dealing with. So feel free to reach out. All of our email addresses are on the website, and we'd be happy to work.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you guys for taking the time to watch Heroes Next Door. We really appreciate you. Once again, hit that subscribe, hit that notification, keep smashing those like buttons. I'm sure John would like a ton of comments on this to figure out, any of your questions. We'll be happy to answer it. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next week.